That's another reason that I know some of the stuff is just going wrong. Is it doesn't do the same thing twice.
Because somebody keeps screwing up the.
It keeps moving my stuff. Then again, I am live on the radio, so I should probably shut up.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see that.
The video's live. The video's live. We're not on the radio yet. The video's live. We'll probably shut up about that part. Where do you want to sleep tonight? Outside? Okay.
That's okay. You got me in trouble with Lynn when I brought the thing over here. So
I don't understand.
It's my turn.
It's different. Every night it's different. When it did what now?
That's it. But I said you got me in trouble with Lynn.
So when do I not get in trouble with Lynn? Yeah, right. See, this is.
Take that DD off your jacket and put SS on there.
I'm so bummed that jacket's wrecked. I really am. I'm really, really bummed. That stinks.
It doesn't fit, or what happened to it?
It's dried out. It's like peeling and things.
Oh, because it's not true leather. It's vinyl. That's why.
No, I know, but it's still. I wore the heck out of that thing. It just gave up, whatever you want to say.
Well, when you get your XM satellite contract, we can get you like a real leather one.
Yeah. Yep. I am. Yeah, I'm sure that'll be any time.
We're so close.
Oh, your God, we're so. We are only.
I showed that to Lynn. She was laughing.
We're only.
We're so close.
What? We're only $9,950 away.
Yep.
Of a $10,000 goal. But other than that, I mean, if you want to be pessimistic about it,
I'm actually optimistic that we got that much. I mean, I was.
Yeah, but I started. You know what it is? I started to get really excited. Like, oh man, this thing's been up for less than a day. Two people did. We're gonna knock this out in no time. Not so much. Not so much. No. Not much. Come on, stop giving me a hard time. Right.
Oh, don't worry. Well, we'll get there. Eventually.
Let's keep an eye for Mike.
Are you able to share that to other groups in Facebook? I guess I guess I can do that. Because that's how that's where you would actually get more funds. Sharing it to other groups. I guess internet radio groups and stuff like that.
Where'd you go? I'm not sure why that keeps hiding behind there. Here we go.
Kennedy, for me. Kennedy. Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know
and young enough to do?
Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. But it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight?
A man who's ready to show that he will fight for what is right.
A loyal man who'll bring the job a fresh new point of view. Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. Because it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy,
Kennedy, Kennedy, Kennedy.
And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed?
It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true.
So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. And it's Kennedy, 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 for me.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? You'll put him among the others when you compare. You cast your vote for Kennedy and the change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. Yes, it's Kennedy, 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 for me. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy,
Welcome from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, part of these United States, at least still for now. Let's see how much longer after November 5th. Western Hemisphere, North American continent on this planet Earth. The only one we have. Third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is the Kennedy Effect, live with you, TKE tonight, live with you for the, try that again, 17th. No, it isn't either. Yes, it is. 17th of October, 2024. Welcome. Let me very, very quickly, and I mean very quickly, get through the business end of the program because we have limited time. And we have a guest. Holy crap. Watch out for snow. We have a guest. And Michael, by the way, is our very first guest. Well, was that right? No, the last time Paul was on it was and I guess T. Nathan was on. I guess he's a guest even. We're on the same station together. I guess it still counts as a guest. But anyway.
You can tell me I'm your first. It'll make me feel special.
First guest on our weeknight program. Let's put it that way. Quickly through the business end of the program. This is TKE tonight for the 17th of October, 2024. There are, I think, if I've done my math, about 20 days left till the end of the election cycle. We are live right now on the Facebook pages of Ghost Claw Productions, my own, Jeff Kennedy, my name's right there on the screen, and of course our home group Facebook page for all things surrounding the program, that other side of information. I will tell you how many places I was able to share. I actually didn't get stopped tonight, so I must have been pretty slick about how I did it. I don't know. It's not telling me that. Why would it tell me that? I wouldn't know that. Why would it ever tell me? 68. Well, that's not bad. 68. I shouldn't get stopped for 68. But then again, you know how it goes. We are live right now on our YouTube channel, That Other Side of Information. If you ever miss any other programs, if you ever miss parts of it, if you forget that we're on, you want to go back and rewatch something, our YouTube channel, the single best place to go, period. All of our episodes are there. Anything that we have ever done live on the radio and on these video streaming platforms, George and I, it's there. YouTube.com/That Other Side of Information. We are live on Twitch. Jeff R. Kennedy. We are live on LinkedIn. Jeff Kennedy as well. And of course, the audio of the program blasting around the globe via GCPR, Ghost Claw Productions Radio, .live, GCPR.live. Just plug anything that I just said to you. Plug it into a search engine. You can find us. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your coworkers. Tell the like-minded, and perhaps even more so, tell the people who are unlike-minded to listen and learn, because that's that's the name of the game. Phone calls, not sure about that tonight because we have a guest. We have to quickly run through this 54 minutes that remains in the program. Coming up live immediately after us at 9 p.m., thus the crunched time schedule. Superplex party starts at 9. Conversations with Teen Nathan from 11. Thomas returns tomorrow morning to end the broadcast week, 8 a.m. with the sound of coffee. This is the end of our broadcast week, and we'll talk to you. Keep an eye on the Facebook page. Really need to return to TikTok. I forgot to tell George the other day, I think it was yesterday, I got an email about how I had 6 new TikTok followers, which is absolutely, I'm gobsmacked by that because I haven't done a promotional video on TikTok in about 3 months. So I've got no bloody idea how anybody found me on TikTok because I've done nothing to promote it. But anyway, let's get to our guest. I practiced your last name, and I am so afraid to butcher it that I'm not. Tell me how you pronounce it.
It's easy. It's Mike Z.
Well, I could do that too, but you spelled it out. I was going to try to say it. You're running for office, for God's sakes, man. People should know your should know your name. I was so worried about butchering it because I read these news articles every night and I just butcher names, and it's such a rude thing to do, and I feel so bad. I mean, the people who are writing the articles that we read and talk about, they're not listening to me. They wouldn't know me if I did. They tripped over me, but you're right here with me, and I hate butchering people's names.
No,
so how do you pronounce it?
It's Zavalery. And my whole life, I've always known when I was about to be called because everyone says Mike and then takes a short, panicked breath.
Gotcha.
Michael. And I say, yeah.
That's
right
me.
here.
And you take the pressure off right away, right?
That's right.
And then, of course, in grade school, you were always last.
That's right. I would go,
right? Yeah, because everything's alphabetical in the lower grades.
Except for oral reports. That's when they'd say, you know what? Let's flip to the other side of the alphabet for this. And I'd have to go first.
Nice. Let's change it up. Yep. You are running for the Pennsylvania State House of Representatives. I am blank. I'm having a brain cramp on the number district that you're running in.
123rd.
123rd. For folks who are unfamiliar with the topography of Pennsylvania, where is the 123rd? Can you?
Schuylkill County, Pennsylvania.
So it would be the Pottsville area, Route 61. As you head up into the mountains, as you go, 61 tends to go northwest, really. Seems like no Pennsylvania state road goes straight anywhere. It seems to always dart off in some sort of direct. Every PA state route seems to be a slant. I don't know what that's about, but 61 goes northwest into the mountains and into the center part of the state. So Schuylkill County is the home of Pottsville, which is the home of the Yuengling Brewery. People may not know Pottsville. They may not know Schuylkill County, but they may not know. And it's fun, by the way, to find people from outside Pennsylvania and show them the word Schuylkill and think of the 8 million different ways that they try to say it. There's a Skykel, there's a Scheukel, there's more than I can even make fun of.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, actually here in Schuylkill County, so the 123rd, it covers Schuylkill Haven in the south all the way up to Ashland in the north. In the east, I'm out to New Philly. In the west, I go out to Minersville. And one interesting thing about Schuylkill County is we have our own brand of Yuengling. I don't know if you know this, but Yuengling Premium can only be found within Schuylkill County.
I thought you were going to say that chocolate, that Hershey one that they keep making.
No. You can get that elsewhere.
Right.
But we've got the premium. We've got the good stuff.
I will say this. I'm actually, oddly enough, not a fan of regular Yuengling. And I'm Irish. I like beer. All my years of drinking just to get pissed, I'm too old for that now. But I actually enjoy the flavor of beer. I might have one or two in a month. And I like to try different ones. the two Yinglings that I happen to think are really quite extraordinary, or what most people I don't think would think of, believe it or not, their light beer is really, really good. It's very strong flavor. Like it's not watered down. It's like real proper flavor. And the black and tan is really just quite brilliant.
Well, I'm also half Irish myself. Used to be Ozaval. So that part's not, it's my mother's side. But yeah, the flight is very good. I do like the flight, but the premium is almost what everyone around here buys just because you can't get it anywhere else. But I do tend towards flight because, getting on in years and you got to watch the carbs these days. So,
or, well, it depends on what you mean by watch them. Watch them as in try to control entering your body, or watch what they do when they get there. But let's get to this. Schuylkill, I do have a couple questions I want to open with though. But Schuylkill, your district is old, if you will, mining territory. Am I correct?
You are quite correct. Yeah, half the things around here are named after coal, including Ashland, which I mentioned earlier.
I don't know what kind of microphone that you're using, but you are going in and out, and you are at times muffled. And I see your buddy over your left shoulder, which I think is fantastic.
That's the
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Cats on the program. I don't know what it is about when people are on Zoom or on any kind of video gathering program like this. The cats just love it. Anyway, Dr. Mike, let me ask you the traditional first question that we normally ask new visitors to the program. And again, first off, thank you again for being here and taking time out of your night and your life to be here and give us, another hopefully 45 minutes or so. Who is Dr. Mike, and how did you get here?
Oh God, Dr. Mike's just some jerk, man. I'll tell you, I'm no different than anyone else, and I think that's one of the most important things about why I'm running. Can you hear me better? Lean forward like this. Is this helping?
It's a little better. Yeah.
So I am just a regular Joe, and that is what our government should be made of. And on some level, you can't say it always was, because historically speaking, it was not supposed to be that way. Historically speaking, it was only the landed gentry who were supposed to have anything to do with politics. They were not going to allow the normal people to vote, let alone run for anything, because they couldn't be trusted. But in my mind, politics should not be mystical, right? It should not be the province of rich people. It should not be the province of famous people. It should be something where common sense has something to do with it, right? It should be something where people can come out and know that just today I was at the Giant before I was on here, and a dude walked up to me and said, "You're Mike, right?" And of course I had that panic moment, like, oh God, where do I know you from? I didn't know. He just shook my hand. He said, "I've seen your signs all over and I can't wait to vote for you." And I said, well, you're not going to see a lot of politicians in the bread aisle, but I guess I'm just one of them. So I think that, it should be normal people who were part of the process. So that's to begin with. The doctor part, I got my PhD at Lehigh, a hop, skip, and a jump from where you're sitting right now, I imagine.
Oh, I can see out the window, and my much, 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 much better half is a Lehigh, former Lehigh student herself.
Go Mountain Hawks. But yeah, I got my my PhD in American history. What's that?
It's not Moravian University, but hey.
Nobody's perfect.
We're not. Nobody's perfect.
Right. So I got my PhD in American history from Lehigh University. Before that, I grew up in New Jersey. Please don't hold that against me. But I went to Seton Hall for my undergrad, Rutgers for my master's. So I slowly but surely moved away from Sussex County where I grew up. And I ended up in Schuylkill County because I got a job in Bethel, and I was living in Whitehall. And if you know anything about Route 22, you know to avoid it at all costs.
Right.
So, it would take me 35 minutes to get to Route 22 and another 30 minutes to get 5 minutes down the road. So eventually I just moved out here, and I'll tell you, I love it. It's a lot like Sussex County where I grew up, same kind of people, same kind of atmosphere, and it's just, I'm very comfortable here. My wife's from Brooklyn, less comfortable here. So first time I brought her to Sussex County to see my parents, she squealed because she saw a chipmunk. And I said, "What's wrong?" And she said, "It's a rat." I said, "It's not a rat, it's a chipmunk." And she said, "How was I supposed to know? He wasn't wearing his sweater."
No, and they're harmless. God, they're so harmless.
Oh, they're adorable. Yeah, I do have one of my 7 cats who likes to break out of the house. So he thinks of chipmunks as more of a, tasty treat.
A gift for the family.
Yeah, exactly. He only leaves us a very small piece of it, though. So that's who I am.
You mentioned a little bit about what if I'm rushing you, then I'm going to apologize straight away. We normally have guests on our 3-hour program on Sundays. We got all the time in the world to pontificate, and I just don't want to miss anything on the chance that we don't have a chance to talk to you again before the end of the cycle. That said, you mentioned a little bit about why you are running, but let me ask again formally. The very basic question that any candidate for anything, from your HOA to dog catcher to president of the United States, why are you running for the 123rd?
Well, I'll tell you why. Last year, I sat on a town hall call with our current representative, Tim Schwartz, and he spoke about anthracite coal being clean burning. Clean burning is, of course, an oxymoron, right? There's no such thing. He spoke about defunding Planned Parenthood and instead funding pregnancy crisis centers, which, as we all know, are already tax exempt. They're already funded by the church. And most importantly, they talk women into having babies they can't support instead of giving them the options they need.
And then abandon them after birth.
Yeah, and they abandoned them as soon as, yeah, exactly. And then the final thing that really got me was when someone called in to question the election in 2020, he got right on board with that. And I said, I finally had to say something. I said, "Brother, you were elected in 2020. If there's a question about that election, what are you doing sitting in your seat? Like, you cannot in one breath say that this election is invalid and the others say, but mine, perfectly above the board," right? Democrats are so devious that they fixed the presidential election but chose not to give themselves a supermajority in each house because they wanted it to be extra challenging. I mean, let's give this a half a second thought, right? So the more I listen to this guy,
we're good at making it hard on ourselves. We really do know how to put ourselves behind the 8 ball. But I get that. And God bless you for being able to actually say that straight to the man himself. And I find it, I'm gobsmacked. All these legislators all across the country, these people in state row offices, the governors, the attorneys general, the treasurers, the auditors, the state house members, the state senate members, all across this country. Somehow Democrats were smart enough to F over Trump, but we have a supermajority and a veto-proof majority and the governorship here in our state. I mean, Democrats, we know how to eat our own. Like, we're really good at it. But I don't think we're that stupid. If we were going to screw with the ballot, we'd probably go from A to Z and screw with the ballot.
Yeah.
They never have an answer for that, do they, Mike? They never have an answer for that.
Nah. They just deflect, because that's the whole game. When you point out that something that they're saying makes no damn sense, they deflect to something else. There's just whataboutism and other nonsense, because when it gets down to the bottom of it, the reality is the people who are selling it aren't buying it themselves. The Trump knew full well, and his people knew full well what had gone on. But they lied anyway. And they let people go to jail, and they let people get killed because we don't matter. And I'm tired of that. I'm tired of seeing people who will lie straight to your face being our representatives. So that's what got me involved. I said to myself, this guy does not represent me, and I cannot allow him to continue representing me. And if I lose, I guess I'll gotta allow it. But I'm gonna fight like hell.
And I don't want to. I'm not trying to beat you up with the same question over and over again. But what pushes you to make that step, though? Running for office is not the. It's not the party. It's not the, and I don't mean political party, but it's not the fun circus that everybody thinks it is. It's not all cutting ribbons and kissing babies. I mean, there's door knocking and phone calls. You have to raise money. You have to write and approve your own literature. You usually have to form a campaign committee. You need to find a treasurer. There are more reports than you can count. There's the very good possibility that person that you happen to see at the Giant this evening, although it was a good experience, I know where you are. It could just as easily be the exact opposite, where somebody walks up and says, "Hey, you're Mike and you're running against him. I'm going to shoot you out in the parking lot. I'm going to kill you," because it's happened here. So what's the, why take that instead of issue advocacy or just, stalking the gentleman at every town hall? Why take the extra step to run and make yourself a public figure?
Well, first off, I got to ask you where the hell you were in January when I decided to run, to give me that talk to talk me out of it. Jeff, I got kids. And I read an awful lot. I read an incredible amount. And the stuff that I read about our future is bleak. It is, I was just looking at some maps yesterday about, worst case climate change scenarios that before I'm dead, let alone my kids, have Louisiana entirely underwater, have Indiana entirely underwater, have beachfront property in Pennsylvania. And it's scary. And there's a class of people, and Tim Twarczyk is of that class, who have money, and it doesn't matter to them because they won't be there in 50 years. I'm 41 years old. I don't know that I'll be here in 50 years either. But every generation in America has always tried to make the world a better place for their children. And I couldn't let that just be lip service. It couldn't just be something that I'm personally trying to do to give my kids a better leg up in the world. I felt like it was time for me to put my money where my mouth is and take some risks and take some beatings. Because, to look at me, you would think I've never been rejected before, pretty as I am. But it's happened once or twice in my life, and it's not a great feeling. And, this whole thing has been so expensive and so difficult. And I was not lying when I said I'm half Irish, man. I would rather bleed out in the street than ask for help. That is just a cultural thing.
Yep.
But asking people for donations, asking people to canvass, asking people to do things for me, it does not come naturally, but it's important, it's imperative, and it's something I've said time and time again throughout this campaign, that if Donald Trump wins, there will never be another meaningful election in this country, and it sounds like a Cassandra act, but he's telling you it. He's telling you he'll be a dictator on day one, just for one day, though, right? Just for one day, because dictators are known throughout history for giving up power willingly, right?
Yeah.
Now, the idea that he'll get in and he'll do right for anyone is a fallacy. He'll do right for himself. He'll do right for another 1,000 or so very rich people, and the rest of us will pay for it for the rest of our lives. And I needed to do something, like Michelle Obama said. I needed to do something, and this was the something I did. And it was a big bite to try to break off, but we are 19 days out, and I'm feeling it. This was the right thing to do, and come hell or high water, I'm glad I did it.
In reference to what Dr. Mike just told you, the top 0.1% economically in this country, right? Not even just the top 1%, the top 0.1% has as much wealth as the bottom 90%. 3 men, we've talked about this before on the program, said it 1,000 times. 3 men, not by accident, middle-aged white men, Mr. Bezos, Mr. Musk, and Mr. Zuckerberg, have as much wealth as the bottom 60% of the country, the bottom 200 million people, just 3 individuals, just 3 people.
Unconscionable.
Let us think of such things. Let us think of that. Can you explain to folks one of the pillars of our program, or at least I'd like to think that it is? I think most people who've ever listened to us would agree. I certainly hope they would. There's a certain number of staples that we try to include on the program, and it became the basis of the program when we started 5.5 years ago. Truth, facts, science, data, and there's not always the same thing, by the way, and history. It would seem to me that so many of the issues and problems facing this country, facing the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and facing the 123rd District, the answers to said problems are in our own history. We know how to solve these things. The New Deal rescued the American economy and the world economy from the Republican Great Depression. And as a history professor yourself, you'll know that that's what it was called up until the 1950s. It was the Republican Great Depression. That's why they didn't win elections. How and or why is history such a good portal for politics that not everyone who wants to enter politics has to be a lawyer? But history, it seems to me, if you're not a lawyer, that next thing under it seems to be history.
Well, that's such a fun point you bring up. I went to school thinking I was going to be a lawyer. And I went and got a history degree because that is the path to going to law school. And when I got into Rutgers, after taking my GREs, I got a free ride offer to Rutgers in Camden for their law school. And I seriously considered it, but I love history, and I wanted to teach it. I wanted to write it. I wanted to immerse myself in it. So I guess on some level, there's a reason that it's all the lawyers and all the historians that do it, because they're really the same people. They just forked off in that last minute. Well, it's such a great point that you bring up, though, because having a thorough understanding of our history is integral to being able to make decisions as a politician, as a representative, as a leader. And it's something that I tell my history classes every semester, right? At the beginning of the semester, I'm always, I give them the George Santayana quote: "Those of us who do not learn from history are condemned to repeat it." And then I tell them that's a load of crap, right? And it's a load of crap.
Do you read Reverend Neumaller's poem to them?
No. I try to keep the poetry to a minimum. I got to keep them awake for 3 hours. But no, I drop that line because most of them have heard of it. But then I'll remind them that, all that does is keep us from making the same mistakes, right? We're going to continue to make mistakes, and what history is there to do is to tell us what we did last time and why it didn't work. Because reality is most of it doesn't work. That's how we get where we are, wherever today is, right? The New Deal worked real well, but it only worked for certain people, which is why Johnson had to come along with the Great Society and try to expand that to people. And that worked real well for a while until certain people felt like certain other people were getting things they shouldn't. And then the new right and Reaganism comes up and tries to put those people back in their place. So having a thorough understanding of history can allow you to see how we got to where we are and help you to make these very important decisions. Because if you make decisions without the benefit of this historical knowledge, you're going to fall into the same traps again. You're going to end up in the same places. And one of the things I'm going to talk about, John Fennerman is coming to see us in Schuylkill County on Saturday. And am I supposed to be reading? Okay.
No, I'm,
right.
I'm showing comments to the.
One of the things that I'm going to talk about when I'm there, I'm going to drop some Kennedy. I hope you like that. But I'm going to drop some Kennedy, and then I'm going to say that here we are 3 generations down the line, and we're talking about the same things. And we've got the same concerns, and we've got the same fears. And how did we end up back here? You know, and how we ended up back here was ignoring history. You know, at the end of every semester in 20th century history, I talk about Reagan. And I talk about Reaganomics, supply side, trickle down, whatever you want to call it. And I tell the students we've got 40 years of data. And what it tells us is it doesn't work. But half of the country believes half of the politicians that say, yeah, but this time. They're going to do it the exact same way, but it's going to work this time. And that's what having a level-headed historian in the room can do for you. You can point out, hey, guys, 40 years later, this isn't working. It's never worked, and it's never going to. Let's try something else. Let's look at that New Deal that built the middle class and see if we can make things better again.
But we already knew that, didn't we? We had the Gilded Age to teach us that none of this, you know, Hoover dropped taxes dramatically. We had the Gilded Age to teach us this. I would submit to you, not being a history professor, not being the historian, and not playing one on the radio, that the fall of the Roman Empire showed us all of this. The rich in Rome, the senators, the powerful, the generals, didn't feel like paying for the empire anymore. Let the people pay. Why am I paying taxes? I'm a senator. I'm wealthy. I'm powerful. I have slaves. I have land. I have this, you know, political patronage seat. Why are we, the gentry, if you will, why are we paying for this vast empire? Let the people pay for it. And the people, it turns out, didn't have the money to pay for it because the rich had all the money. And that didn't work then either. So, and I will gladly admit and agree with you that the New Deal did not go far enough because there were entire segments of the population that did not enjoy the benefits of it, not for lack of effort. Mrs. Roosevelt, and you know, it's very well documented. It's one of the most powerful scenes in the documentary, The Roosevelts by Ken Burns, is that Eleanor goes to him and says, you have to do this for the colored part of our society. And that would have been the term back then, folks, before you get all pissed off. That would have been the term then, that you have to extend these benefits. You have to integrate the army, you have to integrate the schools, and they should be benefiting from the New Deal the same as everybody else. And President Roosevelt said, of course I want to do these things. And I agree with you, and you're correct. But I can give it to some, or no one gets it. Because the segment of society doesn't want to see people of color benefit, period. So I can help a section of the society, or we can continue to wallow in these depths. But I think the overall point can't be missed. And because I agree with you, the New Deal had its shortcomings at that point, although it was Roosevelt eventually that integrated the military. And of course, Johnson cut poverty by almost 2/3 with the Great Society. But then, of course, you know, he gave us Medicare, but then, of course, it had to agree to the 20% hole, or it couldn't get passed. When you talk to voters, is that, and not necessarily my words, but at least the thought, so to speak, that folks, we know how to fix these things. We do know how to do this, period. We know how to do this. A top marginal tax rate of 91%, a corporate rate of 50%, a capital gains tax of 35%, an estate tax, an inheritance tax, a wealth tax, a stock transaction tax, all taxes that we've already had in this country. Tom Hartman often jokes that his gravestone will say it all started with Reagan. I mean, it got renewed with Reagan. We had a Gilded Age in the 20s. The Romans sunk themselves. But whether it's one-on-one at Giant when you're shopping, or at a rally somewhere, I mean, it's not to say that it's that simple, so to speak, but folks, we've done this before. We know how to fix these things. The answer does not have to fall to us from the sky or hit us like a meteorite. We know how to do these things, and history teaches us exactly what to do. Is that part of your presentation to people? Is it part of the conversations that you're having when you're at the farmers markets and fairs and knocking doors and so on and so on and so on?
Oh, heck yeah. And I say it pretty much exactly the way you do. It's a lot easier to talk to the MAGA folks than you think, because you ask them simply, well, when were things so good? And uniformly, they drop the 50s. Things were great in the 50s, Eisenhower, this and that. And I say, do you know what the tax rate was for the wealthy in the 1950s? Do you know what the tax rate was for corporations in the 1950s? Mm-hmm. It's only since we allowed those things to drop that the middle class has had to bear the brunt of our economic schism, really. And there's an easy graph out there that I could pull up if I had, half a second to think about it. But you can see very clearly how income inequality right there in 1980 just starts to creep. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes parabolic, just this huge difference. And the middle class and the working class are still growing at the same rate, but that red one on top just goes up and up and up and up and up. And if those people were paying their fair share, like you said, I mean, that stock trade tax that you mentioned, it wouldn't have to be much. It could be a penny, and we could pay for Medicare for all in this country. And how you get through the pandemic, where people were dying at such a rate that we had refrigerated box trucks sitting outside hospitals because the morgues were full. How you get through that, and you don't think everyone deserves health care. You don't think no one deserves to die because they can't afford to treat themselves. I just don't understand it. This is the richest nation in the world. We should not have homeless vets. This is the richest nation in the world. We should not have lunch debt. That, by the way, is probably the thing that got me out. Of all the things that cheese me off, lunch debt. We don't feed hungry children. I'm Catholic. I've got to go to St. Peter when I die, and I've got to defend my life. And he's going to look in that book, and if he saw the words lunch debt, he'd point right to the down escalator. Because how do you countenance letting children go hungry in the richest nation in the world? All these things can easily be paid for on the backs of these mega rich people you talk about. Think about Elon Musk. Dude was worth $20 billion 10 years ago. $270 billion today. That, I don't even know what to say. I mean, how many lives would you need to spend that kind of money? It's just, give them an award. You won capitalism, just pay your fair share and let everyone else pull themselves out of the gutter, for Christ's sake. I don't think it's so much to ask. And you know what? When I talk to people out canvassing, when I talk to people at events, I have these conversations. It's easy to find somewhere that people have a pain point. Maybe it is healthcare. Maybe it's unemployment. Maybe it's Social Security. Maybe it is lunch debt. Everyone's got something. Maybe it's on the west side of Schuylkill County where all they smell some days is trash or biosolids. Mm-hmm. And who gets to pay for that? We do. It's our air and it's our water that's polluted. But it's the dude who owns the land who gets all the profit out of it. And that's just, again, it's unfair. And I know life's not fair. I get it. You don't got to tell me that. I've got 3 kids. I'm well aware. But there's life's not fair, and then there is ruining everyone else's life for your own personal profit, and it's just got to end. We've got to, as a Catholic, as an American, I have one rule, right? And it's, it's a very simple, it's the most important thing in the whole book. Love your neighbor. Do unto others as you would have do unto you. Love your neighbor. It's not difficult. And if you are living your life that way, then you are paying your fair share. If you're living your life that way, you're not seeing anyone go hungry. And, for all the people on that side of the divide who talk about this as a Christian nation, it seems like that part of the Bible must have fallen entirely out of theirs before they read it, because they didn't catch any of the stuff Jesus said about taking care of people and loving people. It's just that the hating parts that they remember.
Man cannot serve two masters, God and money. Very quickly, quick ID here. TKE tonight for the 17th of October, 2024. I see a lot of new names in the chat. You need to know what the heck you're even listening to. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you. This is TKE tonight, the Kennedy Effect tonight for the 17th of October, 2024. We are here every weeknight, Monday through Thursday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m., right where you're seeing us and or listening to us right now. Our Sunday program is everywhere that you're seeing it and listening to it right now for a 3-hour extravaganza each Wednesday. Where did I get that from? Eat that, because that's the old, there's a, I've told George I need spark plugs. I need new spark plugs up here. So the works are all gummed up. They're misfiring. Every Sunday evening from 6 to 9 p.m., everywhere that you are seeing and listening to us right now. We are live on Facebook at Ghost Claw Productions, my Facebook page, Jeff Kennedy, and our home group Facebook page for the program, That Other Side of Information. We are live on our YouTube channel, That Other Side of Information, live on Twitch, Jeff R. Kennedy, live on LinkedIn at Jeff Kennedy as well. The audio of the program blasts around the globe via gcpr.live, gcpr.live, Ghost Claw Productions Radio.live. And a special hello and welcome to our listeners that are not inside the United States. If you live outside the United States, where we actually have measurable, pretty significant listenership literally around the globe, a special welcome to you. And thank you for being part of the program. Dr. Mike, I wanted to throw some, we're literally at 15 minutes because there is a program on after us. I want to make sure that you know that you are welcome back here if you wish to return before the end of the election cycle and after, because there will certainly be enough to talk about after. Before we run out of time, I want to make sure that you can give everybody, how do people find you, follow you, donate? Tell us about the event that's happening on Saturday. I have to imagine a few folks might want to meet Senator Fetterman. Just give us the spiel about, website, Facebook, all that stuff. How do people find you, contact you, donate, follow what's happening, follow the campaign, etc.?
So luckily, I have a really wonderful team of people who are helping me do this. I'm a novice, and as I said earlier, quite the schlub. But there are a lot of people who know what they're doing who help me out. So our branding is, so good that, like I said, people who've never met me know what I look like, and just by the signs. But MZV, like you see on the thing there, 4123. The number's 4123. So you can find me at mzv4123.com. If you search MZV4123 on Twitter, we're calling it Twitter. We'll stop dead naming that when he stops dead naming his kid. On Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, and of course, as you mentioned, importantly, on ActBlue, where you can donate. And I would love your donations, because the more of that I get, the more commercials we got, the more people we can reach. And it's a very simple message that, I'm here for you. And when we talk on Saturday at the Humane Fire Company in Pottsville, which is not only will Senator Fetterman will be there, but Eugene DePasquale, who is running to be our Attorney General, will be there as well. when I talk there, one of the things I'm going to cover is a vote from just last Wednesday here in the Pennsylvania House, where they voted on a bill that would require insurers to insure people with pre-existing conditions in Pennsylvania. Right, so this is a little preemptive strike against the possibility that Donald Trump were to win and were to strike down the ACA. Right? Well, if you can believe it, only 28 Republicans voted against that bill. One of them was my good friend Tim Twardzik. Yup, just blows your damn mind. So I'll be talking about that and a lot of other stuff. I've only got 4 minutes there. I don't have a whole hour, and I'd love to come back, hopefully for a victory party sometime. But so I've got my 4 minutes, and I actually wrote this one out. Everything else I do is just off the top of my head. Everything we're talking about here is off the cuff. But for this one, I've got it written down so I can stay on topic. So we'll talk about
George will tell you I've been doing this program for 5.5 years off the top of my head.
See, that's the honest way to do things, right? You can't lie that way.
Spontaneous, and it's natural at a very minimum. Let me throw some facts at you, and then I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
When Ronald Reagan took office, we were the largest creditor nation on earth. We loaned more money out to other nations, nation states, et cetera, than any other nation on earth. At the end of 8 years, we were the largest debtor nation on earth. When Reagan came to power, we were the largest exporter of finished goods and importer of raw materials. At the end of his 8 years, those statistics flipped. We were the largest importer of finished goods, exporter of raw materials. We added more debt to the national debt than all the administrations before him put together. 40% of the country cannot handle a $400 emergency. 60% of it cannot handle a $1,000 emergency. And just as a side note, Bernie Sanders tells us that a 0.01, 1/100th of a percent, a 0.01 electronic stock transaction tax would pay for Medicare for all, eliminate student debt, and pay down the deficit. You are in a red district. You're in a pretty red area. How, and especially as an educator, as a history person, where facts are everything, this event happened on this date, period. The joy of history is that we can certainly always talk and debate about what the lasting outcomes of said event were, but the fact that these things happened are exactly that. They are facts. How do you navigate all of this when a significant amount of the population of your district, and by extension our country, doesn't give a shit about your facts? That water is not wet, grass is not green, the sky is not blue. How do you combat that? How do you campaign through that level of fog?
Wow, that's an intense line of questioning. Because there is no way to combat that. People who are disingenuous, people who are bad actors, people who are just not arguing in good faith, you can't argue with. That percentage of the electorate is, I won't say unreachable because no one's unreachable, but it's incredibly difficult to find the right hook with them because, as you said, they will just consistently use their own facts, many of which have no relation to reality whatsoever, to argue back with you. So it's difficult. It's difficult. I would say that one of the most important things about that, and you bring up Reagan, and it's a really great point, especially here in Schuylkill County, because part of the problem in the 1980s was that we transitioned from a production economy to a service economy, right? And a production economy, which we had been for most of our history, meant we were producing finished goods. And there are very few services that create goods. That's what a service is. So
a service economy is an excellent way to destroy unions and suppress wages while maximizing profits.
Which was the point. Absolutely.
Exactly.
You know, I mean,
when
from the moment he sent the aviators back to work, the
people say that trickle down doesn't work, no shit, it doesn't work. But really, if you look at it in a certain way, Mike, it works exactly as it's designed.
You're right. It just doesn't work the way they describe it.
Right. It doesn't work the way they sold it to us, but the way it was designed, it works famously.
You're right. You're right. But to get back to the Reagan thing, you know, you brought up the debt, and that's another salient point. But do you know what the number one creditor for the United States is? It's the people of the United States, right? We own more of our debt than anyone else in the world, you know. So Reagan, you're going to have a tough time swallowing this, I promise. Reagan was a New Deal Democrat. He was a New Deal Democrat because his father was able to keep his family fed because he had a job because of the New Deal. Now, what Reagan said was he left the Republican or the Democratic Party in 1960 when they elected John Kennedy. He said that he didn't leave the Republican or the Democratic Party, that the Democratic Party left him, which is cute, but it certainly doesn't bear any, again, relation to reality. But so when Reagan took over,
it's cute, but
he acted the part. I'm sorry?
It's cute, but it's bullshit.
Yeah. You know, it's pithy. When he took over, he acted the part of the New Deal Democrat. You know, he expanded the amount of money the government was spending, right? But where it was being spent was the issue. It was no longer being spent on the people, right? And that's where we diverge, right? And I've said this a million times, like, you know, I understand that we've got the largest, strongest military in the world. And we need to maintain that because that's a big part of how we stay at our, you know, at the top of the hegemony. But we have a budget, an annual budget of $1 trillion, right? When they talk about student loan canceling would cost, what was it, $3 trillion, something like that, right?
I'm not even
That's
sure.
over 10 years. That's a 10-year period. But when they talk about that military budget every year and it keeps closer and closer to $1 trillion every year, that's a yearly budget, right? And every time they audit them, they fail it. So for certain segments of the economy, we couldn't care any less where the money's going, right? It's just when it might go to poor people. It's just when it might go to people in need that we call it an entitlement.
People of
there's
color.
a problem with it. Right? Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, that's Reagan called them welfare queens, right? Who are the welfare queens? Who takes the most government assistance in the country? Do you know?
Well, state of Kentucky.
White people
Yep.
in the middle of the country.
Poor white people in the South and the
That's
Center.
right.
The
That's
old
right.
Confederacy.
Those are not, you need those people to vote for you. So you don't blame them. You create a welfare queen. You create something to hate. And I mean, if anyone's been good at that, it's been Trump.
You create kids play sports.
That's right. He creates I mean, oh my God, one of the things that Tim brought to the floor was a bill to ban trans kids from playing sports in Pennsylvania. Do you know how many kids we're talking about? Do you have any idea? I mean, across the nation, in most states, it's fewer kids than are fitting on your hand. I mean, it is so few people that this impacts. But in a county where, again, as I said, you transition away from a production economy to a service economy, that is not Schuylkill County's wheelhouse. Like you said, we are coal, we are manufacturing, we have union people here. We are a huge producer of union labor and union laborers. And that economy left us by. Right? So how do you keep getting those people to vote for you? Well, you scare them. You create boogeymen. And if it's trans kids, then it's trans kids. And if they don't exist, that doesn't matter. All they got to do is exist up here. You just need to convince them they're real and they're the enemy at the gates, right? Or The enemy from within, I think, was the term earlier in the week.
Term of the week.
Yeah. So, I mean, yes, Schuylkill County really did suffer from Reaganism. And the real shame of it is how many people in the county just don't understand that. Just don't understand that, the cause of all their problems, the cause of the blight issues, the cause of the drug issues, the cause of the poverty issues is the same people they're voting for. Because if we were to put those taxes in place we talked about, if we were to start getting people the help they need, right? A rising tide will lift all boats, right? The blight issue takes care of itself when people aren't so poor they can't take care of their property. The drug issues take care of themselves when people aren't so poor they're looking for an escape. And again, there will still be blighted properties. There will still be addicts. But the vast majority of these problems, they are symptoms. They're not the problem. The problem is that we do not take care of our people because we have to take care of our rich. And as Kennedy says, well, I don't want to spoil it. You'll hear it on Saturday. But it's a good one about a country not being able to take care of its poor who have nothing but rich. So, listen, I want to thank you for having me on here. I know we only got 3 minutes left, but this has been a real joy, and I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Well, don't go anywhere. Even after we sign off, just please stay for a couple seconds so I can share some information with you. But I think always think that the very undervalued quote from President Kennedy is, it's from the moonshot speech, but it's not the part that I think everybody thinks of. We choose to go to the moon and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. The beauty of the position that we are in as a 123rd district, as a Commonwealth, and as a country, is that the solutions are not hard. It's not having to do the hard things because we know what the fracking answers are, because we've done it before. Mr. Musk does not need any more money. Period. Folks, again, 3 middle-aged white guys have as much wealth as the bottom 60% of the country. And in a nation of about 330 million, you're talking about over 200 million people. The top 0.1% has as much wealth as the bottom 90%. The top 1% of wealth of the wealthy around the globe have as much wealth as the bottom 90% of the globe. We know how to fix these things. The New Deal shows us how to fix these things. Alexander Hamilton told us how to fix these things. The Great Society showed us how to fix these things. And think of how much more glorious these programs could be now, because we do have the intelligence and the national maturity to say that my Black brothers and sisters, my Asian brothers and sisters, my Hispanic brothers and sisters not only can, but should enjoy this as I. That's all the time that we have for tonight. Superplex Party starts just a second or two. Please remember, they're on live immediately. Well, as soon as I click off here, they're live. T. Nathan from 11. Thomas returns tomorrow morning. Stay tuned to the Facebook group and TikTok. We'll let you know what's coming up on Sunday. Until then, to all of you, it's the end of our broadcast week. We are not here tomorrow. We're not here Saturday. Please take care of yourselves and each other. Stay tuned to the Facebook group. We'll let you know what's coming up on Sunday. It's about all the damage we can do. Take care of yourselves, and we will talk again soon. Have a great night. Superplex Party starts right now.